गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
बोलते हैं उसका the importance of that spirit cannot be measured in human terms. It's a spiritual connection that you have with that being with whom you have taken a leap of faith. That should not come lightly. It's a responsibility that requires special attention, special focus, and unconditional commitment. It should also be known that the one who you call a teacher, a guide, a guru or an Ustad, it's not, he or she is not that because you say so. It has been ordained, it is destiny which brings you to that person. It happened with him too. It was destiny. I mean, to be born in the house of a farmer and then to have that vision, it is something that comes down as a blessing from above. And to be able to embrace that destiny at the age of 11 and take that leap of faith, running away from home at that age, it was a big leap of faith for a young child. It's unimaginable that we can even think that that can happen, that we can even consider it. But it happened. And destiny eventually brought him to him. But that wasn't their first meeting. The meeting was already here, and in the universe, ambience and atmosphere was already there. And that's why the destiny. And that's why the commitment, that's why the responsibility, that's why you must think, do you have that? Do you have that connection with him? Do you have that connection with any guru? Whether that vision has come to you, whether that desire to unconditionally surrender to the Spirit's will has come to you, whether it's important to you to be in the presence of the teacher and not worry about any repercussions for having given up anything else. In today's world, it doesn't mean tyag, it doesn't mean relinquishing all responsibilities. It means making that commitment and focus that allows you to be able to, how should I say, it allows you to be able to meet all the questions that you are faced with and answer them. Moh, Maya, all those have to be part of living. You have to deal with those things. But at the same time, having that singular focus so that whatever transmission is coming from the Guru is being fully absorbed, is being fully taken. That is important. Every word, every syllable, every tha, every pattern that comes from the teacher and transmission, it is being fully absorbed. That is the only commitment that you need to make with the Guru. The Guru is not asking that you come and you wash my dishes and you clean my clothes and you cook for me and you clean my home and take me everywhere. That's not what the Guru is saying. The Guru is saying that I have committed to you that you have the ability to absorb information that I can give you. And now show me that I am right. That's all the Guru is asking. Show me that I am right. So that is the commitment you have to make. It is important that when you are in the presence, that everything else stands aside or is put aside. Then your absorption of the information would be without any interference. And when that happens, the clarity of the information is revealed to you and you are aware of what's happening. You can't be thinking about, I have to reach somewhere at a certain time, or I have to answer this phone or send a text. None of that. So you inspire your teacher by doing that. You inspire your guide to show you the way by doing that. And when you inspire, you're not, how should I say, a student anymore. You are actually the teacher. You are teaching your Guru to teach you. That's what's happening. Guru needs that inspiration. Guru needs that light to be able to see how to teach you. How best to give you the information that you can absorb. That can only happen if your connection through your mind to your teacher is not cluttered with a zillion other things. That it's so clear, it's so straight, that the teacher can see in your eyes that what he is giving you is reaching you. And when it does that, the information flows like a fast flowing river or a great waterfall. It comes to you. So it's important that you have that connection. And it does not just remain in the presence of the teacher. When you are alone with your thoughts and your music and your learning, that connection is still there. You must hear the words in your mind and in your heart telling you exactly what to do. It's not like, yeah, I don't know what he was saying, ye kaisa hai, kya hai, phone utha ke, arey, yeah, did you understand what he was saying? That's not what it's about. It's about having that clear connection, and that focus that allows you to study uninterrupted from anywhere else in any other possibilities or distractions. So the Guru is a teacher. You are the student, but you are also the teacher. So I feel that it's necessary that you understand that if you feel that you are stuck and you have information but it's not making sense to you, or it's a little too much for you, and you expect your Guru to unravel it for you, understand that the Guru cannot unravel it for you unless you are able to, in some ways, show him how to help you unravel it. It has to be that way. If I tell you, okay, ये तेटा तुम्हारे से नहीं निकल रहा है, तुमने कैसे बजाया है उसको, तुमने कौन सी कॉम्पोजिशन में बजाया है उसको, तुमने किस कॉम्बिनेशन में बजाया है उसको. If you cannot answer that to me, then I cannot help you. You have to be able to tell me what you have done. Then only I can show. People ask me, please tell me how to practice. I can't tell you how to practice. I haven't seen you how you play. I don't know how your hand is. I don't know what it needs. And that I can only show you if you help me. If you just sit there like this, bajao kuch, nahi hota. You must inspire the teacher. That means you must have the confidence to be able to reveal your heart to the teacher. You must have it. Then only you can have that magical connection. When he arrived in his presence, what happened? Miyaji said, who are you? And he said, I'm just Allah. Who did you study with? And he said, I studied with you. An 11-year-old telling him, who has never seen him before, I studied with you. He says, but I haven't seen you. And he says, but I have seen you. That is a very deep statement coming from a young person, that I have seen you. It is an amazing connection. In many films they've used it. I mean, in this film Avatar, and don't they say to each other, I see you. It's like saying we are connected. So imagine that was already there. And then when he put his hand on the tabla, the rakhai, haath ki, was exactly like his Guru's, who he had never seen before. But such was the commitment, such was the desire, such was the depth of his need to be with his Guru, that he had already totally, openly, unconditionally surrendered himself to the will of the Guru, and without even knowing, the Guru's spirit had already arrived in him. Without even knowing, when I say that, I mean without even the Guru knowing, the spirit had already arrived in him, and they had connected. So it was destiny, it had to be. It was the same with many other people, many other performers that had this. Hari Prasad Chaurasia ji was a wrestler, is a wrestler. His parents were wrestlers. His father was a wrestler. His grandfather was a wrestler. But it had to be that his destiny was to play the flute. And it had to be that a very simple flute player living in the area had shown him this little window inside of him that was in some ways calling him, come to me. And that's why he ran away from Allahabad. That's why he ended up finally here and found his guru, Annapurnaji. And the rest is history. So such things happen. That's why we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Maheshwar, because he's such a concoction of the spirits that are all around us. The spirit of the Creator, the spirit of the Protector, the spirit of the Destroyer. They're all inside the Guru. He will destroy any negative energy that's inside of you. And then he will create all the positive elements that need to be in there for the knowledge to live inside of you. And he will protect you from and give you the ability to be able to keep that knowledge intact, to nurture it, to preserve it, and to irrigate it so it grows inside of you. The Guru has all that ability, so the Guru will do that. And there are many of you here who have had that blessing from this man. I had the great fortune of meeting that man. I don't know if many of you know this, but I think I was maybe 7, 8 or 9 years old, and I went to Lahore. It was a wedding of my father's sister in the villages, but at that time my father went to see Miyaji in Lahore. The wedding was in a village about 12-hour train ride away. But after all that was over, in Lahore, he went to see Miyaji, and he brought me there with him. And it's interesting that he would, even at that point, not consider himself worthy. He was not being a guru or a father, he was being a student. And he brought me in front of Miyaji and said, please, isko ganda kar diye. Meaning, he wanted me to have that connection that he himself had as a child. And he wanted me to experience the same electricity, same current, same spark. So I still remember that Miyaji was very reluctant, and he said, he's your son, you teach him, you tie the ganda. And he said, no, you have to do it. So Miyaji did it at that time. And then many moons later, I had discovered inside of me what my destiny was, what my vision was. So then I insisted that he tie the gradually. So then my relationship in that way changed with him. But even at his peak, at that point, where the whole of Punjab was bowing at the feet of Ustad and baithaks were being held, and great masters were sitting there, and he was playing concerts like you won't believe, and I was watching this. Even at that time, it was important for him that I receive that transmission. So he was not being a teacher, he was not being a guru, he was being a student, and he was making sure that I had the same beginning. And I'm very indebted in that way, that had that, and Fazal Bhai has had that, and Yogeshwar has had that, Sham Bhai has had that. We've all been very fortunate, but there's a lot of you sitting here who've been very lucky, because for many, many years, from this very place, you got the knowledge from probably one of the greatest spirit of Tabla, from him. And I hope you realize that the knowledge that you have received is priceless. I hope you realize that it comes with a big responsibility. And I hope you also realize that it is not something that you close inside that safe, which is you, your heart or your mind. That you irrigate it and you share it. It is important that you share it with everyone. And you're doing it. Some of you have passed the knowledge. Sham Bhai has, Yogesh has, Amrit has. Everybody has given that information. Fazal Bhai is doing that. Everybody. So, without any limits, without any conditions, you must make sure that the knowledge goes out and is shared. Then only you'll be doing justice to his presence here. All the time that he spent here with you. It's important. He used to say to me, बेटा जब बजाओ तो जरा तबले की शायरी पे ध्यान दो. तबले की शायरी, mean the poetry of tabla. You must think about it. What is that? What is table ki shayari? What is poetry? What is that? Discuss it. Let's talk about it. Let's start with Yogi ji. Since you said wow, say something.
The way I heard Apache's Padam, and the way he used to recite bowls, it was actually like a shair sitting there and sharing a deep philosophy inside a couplet, I would say, from an abstract language. He made an abstract language so meaningful through his recitation, and I guess that's what he meant by shairi, trying to feel the lyrical element inside the language of tabla. So that's what I experienced with him whenever he recited to me. So,
Fazal bhai?
I think it's more like expressing, to make the tabla your way to express yourself. So he had that ability to, and his recitation and playing were in sync with each other. Usually what happens is that what he recites and what he plays is totally different. But in his case, whatever he recited, exactly the same thing was presented on the tabla. So for him, the tabla was a means to express his feelings, express his thoughts, and also, as he always used to say, that जैसे बजाओगे, जैसे बोलोगे वैसे बजाओगे. That was his way of saying things. So I think that's what he meant, that the expression, because poetry is what we call as expressing your feeling, expressing yourself, and he was using tabla.
Yeah. It's a language. Tabla is a language. Just like Hindi, Punjabi, Marathi, Gujarati, whatever. It's a language. So when you speak that language, you must talk like as if you normally talk. That's very important. And therefore, it's prose and poetry, whatever it is. अगर आपको वो expressive element नहीं मिलेगा, तो तबले में आपके लाइफ कैसे आएगी? It'll be a robotic, dead presentation. It can't. It has to have the sadness, happiness, pain, exultation, just every element that you can possibly imagine has to be. So you think about it as a story you're telling. And in that story, you can tell it in the form of padas, like Gita, where there are couplets. Or you can tell it in the form of a subject being talked about, not in a couplet form, but just as a subject. I mean, suppose the subject is अब जैसे वो that frame is there, the black frame, and on top there is one syllable in thick white, bold white, correct? Suppose that is your subject, then that must be the focus of your presentation, obviously. Now a little thing like that would not occupy a whole rhythm cycle, possible. But it becomes the focal element of a thought. You know, they say that a line is a continuation of a point. So if you have a point and then you draw on it, that becomes a line. So point, line. So that point is the subject matter. You don't have to keep hammering it on somebody's head, but it has to be there lurking about. My interpretation or understanding of it is like, it's not a one-liner. It's a complete chapter kind of thing. So when I start to think about the presentation, I think about it that way. Suppose if you're doing, Abbaji used to do it the same, you know, in that manner.
एक मिनट आप थोड़ा आगे आगे आ सकते हैं, पीछे में थोड़ा आगे आ जाओ. Just come a little forward, so spread out.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Da da tin da da tin da da tin da. So now you have that. What is the focal point? What is the focus? What is the subject? It's not the whole line. It is the point. Da da da. What is the point? That is the focal point of it. Da da tin da da tin da da tin. Okay. So now you have the choice of the first darda tinna, the middle darda tinna, or the last darda. These are all points, and you are drawing a line between those points to make it into one carriage. Darda tinna, 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 da da din da da din da da din da da din da din da 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 din da da din da da din. So that's a focal point. So now you're creating. This is, you're telling your arrival. You know. It's like saying, so I wanted to go to Barista. And one day I felt like I wanted to go to Barista walking. So I got out of my house and I crossed the street and I walked to the end of the block and I took the right turn. And there was a signal, I waited, I crossed the street. And after the signal I turned right, and halfway through the block I arrived at Barista. And Barista is your point. Okay? Da da tinna, 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 Dar da dinna gina dagina dagatina gina titi titi dagina dati dagina tina gina dagina dati dagina dagatina gina dagina tina dati dagina dagatina gina. Poetry, shairi, thinking about it. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. This is what he kept in mind. So I think he was the first tabla player that I saw on whose face the whole tabla appeared. Visually, it appeared. It was like this same scenario was happening, and you can see it on his face because he was actually living it as he was moving through all these patterns, all these movement, all these nooks and crannies and development. So it didn't mean that, see, that's one line, but we traversed all the way around Shivaji Park ground to get there, to Barista. So it's not a one line, it's many things. Dhar da tinna, dhar da tinna, dhar da tinna, dhati dagina dagatina, dhana dagina tinna, kridhana dhati dagina tinna, dhati da, dhati da, dhati da, dhati da. So don't consider yourself shackled with a thought, with an idea. Consider that that idea expands and contracts just the way life does. Just the way breathing is. Just the way the days are different every day. The sun will set a little bit later every day, or the moon will rise a little bit sooner every day, whatever. So these things will happen, and those must be reflected in your music. And so it becomes alive. It becomes something tangible, something that you can, touch, you can see, you can experience visually. And that's prose, poetry, expression, emotion, all those things. And so it's a language, it's a storytelling apparatus, it's a scenario. I was just imagining, the other day we honored Viju Maharaji on stage. So one of the things that I wanted to say about a kathaka, which came to me later, was that there are very few kathakars who will tell you the story, and when their hands go up to do hastak, that you see the story right here, and then there are others like Maharaji or Sitaraji or Shambhu Maharaji, because I saw him when I was this age. It occurred to me later that when they did their hastak to show you a character, you saw the hand doing something, and then you saw the scene on top of it, even though it was not there. So the stage became a frame. The stage became a frame, and the performer was painting on that stage. It was like a set. So Ayodhya was created, or Vrindavan was created. So when you saw Birju Maharaj picking up Giri, Govardhan, and holding him on his finger, you didn't just see the finger, you saw the mountain. You actually saw that scene. And that is a greatness, that and a power that such spirits have, that they can actually show you. Picasso could do 2 lines and you saw the whole painting in it. There was a power in there where it demanded that you be part of this enactment of a stage, this enactment of a set, that you be a part of it. And Abbaji was someone like that. That when he played, the tabla became larger than life. It wasn't just these 2 little drums. And he wasn't just this one person, 5 foot 8 inches. his presence covered the whole stage. And the information that came out of the instrument, it painted itself in front of you. And it challenged you to look into it and connect and be a part of it. And through his will and through his expressive and emotive quality that he had, he carried you in that thought process. He carried you in telling of that story. And you finally found yourself connected in a way that you were actually telling the story along with him. And that magical connection was something that he was able to invoke. That is shairi. That is storytelling. You know how it is when somebody like your dada or dadi or nana or nani in the middle of the night, you can't sleep and he's telling you a story, and suddenly you actually feel it, and something about a demon, and then you get very afraid, and something about an angel and you feel elated, and suddenly the whole story appears in front of you, and you feel connected and you're living it, and you want next day the dada or dadi or nana or nani to tell you the same story again or another story again. It happens. And that musical connection or telling is what playing music, performing music is all about. Or dancing or writing or writing poetry is all about. What does a poet do when he tells you or recites a poem or a share? He can just recite it, but you have to imagine it or interpret what that couplet is all about. Or else, nothing. It won't make any sense. It is important that you understand that. And certain poets had that ability to be able to recite a poem to you, and when they recited it to you, you saw how the meaning appeared. You saw what it was all about. So that kind of strength and that kind of magic is what a guru is capable of. And he's only capable of that if you are capable of inspiring him to show that aspect of his spirit. So that's it. It's a simple focus connection. Do it. He doesn't have to be there to do it. I know I have felt his presence and presence of other spirits around me who've taught me things without being in front of me, and I have learned. And I know that we've all had that experience. When transmission is given, I've suddenly, one Guru Purnima, I remember I was asleep and I woke up and there was this composition. I did not think of it, but it came. So that happens. So if your connection is deep enough, if your belief is strong enough, if that leap of faith has been taken unconditionally, the transmission will continue. It doesn't matter if the Guru is around you or not. So, I mean, you want to add something?
About a budget?
Or about...
Well,
Yeah.
Abaji once said in front of me, talking to dancers, that how there was no dance if there wasn't bhava. If there wasn't expression, then there wasn't any dance. And I remembered one night in New York, we were some students with him after he had recorded a solo for Vanguard Records a long time ago. Like, I think before just right before we were married.
76,
I think it's something like that, yeah. And he came back because I had to go somewhere else and I couldn't be with him in the recording. So, but I ran right that night back to his hotel, to see him. And he was very excited to play the tape of the solo. And he said to me and a couple of other students that were there, he said, all right, I'm going to play it now. And you know how like he could be like a child, he's so childlike. And he said, putting it on, Tanpura started. He said, and don't count. Now, we were sitting and studying all summer, keeping tall and trying our best. I don't want you to count. Don't think of lay. Don't think of avartan. Don't think any of these things. I just want you to feel what I'm doing.
Wow.
And in keeping with what Zakir was saying, when I studied with my Guruji, Satara Devi, who's, as you know, a great bhakt and kathaka, of course. That's what she thought of herself. She taught me this, Geet, and it was a Vrindavan Kunjana Rachura, Ali Ali Banmali Didata Sabasaki Detali. So it was all about the dance in Vrindavan with Krishna, Lord Krishna. And I remember her saying to me, that day, use all your colors, paint your picture. What colors are you coming up with? And then she would immediately start to describe the river, but how was the river flowing? It was warm out, so it was flowing very slowly. And you got that sensation of being in such a beautiful place, and with the trees and and everything else she would describe. So Abaji was like that, And about his recitation, I always thought he was like in some tune with like the great Nada Brahma. His sound, it was so incredible that you just, it wasn't like almost, it was beyond the human voice, I always thought that.
Kasam, you have any guru stories? You studied with Panditji, Ranaji said, a long time.
It's so beautiful to listen to what you said. I found that my guru wasn't just someone who taught me a subject, but was my best friend, my business advisor, someone I cried with, someone I laughed with. The coconut wireless. Yeah. Always. So now my own music guru, he passed in 1996, but I don't feel one day where I feel him inside of me or me inside of him, and it gives me so much joy to be able to look at life through his eyes. I don't mean his station, but because our hearts are so close, then I can look at life the way he would look at it and learn from his point of view still today.
Learning never stops.
I think one question we always ask is how long we should practice.
How long we should practice?
All the time.
How many hours? 10 hours, 9 hours. There's always that question mark. How many hours?
I think Abbaji practiced all the time. But I rarely saw him sitting with the tabla.
I remember sitting with many times, but he'd be there doing something, but he's reciting inside.
There was a constant connection with the art form, with the music, with the instrument. but it didn't have to be a physical, visible connection. It had to be, it was always there. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I think
He never stopped. He
Many
would go to
times,
film to see a movie, and he'd be sitting there
Yeah,
in the
they were
movie
counting.
theater, like counting. He
counting never stopped.
When he was taking a nap, he was counting. He never no, it's true. I've seen him sleeping.
Wow.
And maybe in his dream, and suddenly you would hit like this.
You go sitting there. But physical practice. I mean,
Physical practice, as far as I'm concerned, there was a seminar on practice or Riyaz one day, and all the musicians were sitting there here in NCP and talking about it. That it should be this practice, should be long practice, be 5 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, or whatever. And suddenly Shiv Kumar Sharma ji said, I have to say one thing, and that is, I have traveled for many years with Zakir. I was also there on the panel, all over the world, and we've traveled and for months together. I never saw him practice. That's what he said. So, me, I did not practice, but I found myself connected with my instrument all the time. My instrument was my knee, it was my hand, it was just my mind. In the movie hall, it was the front seat or the armrest. It was constantly there. It was the steering wheel, it was the dashboard of the car, it was the school bench, it was the book. Has a good sound, by the way. Book has a good sound.
he uses it on the stage now.
So the process of being plugged in was constant. Physically speaking, my understanding is that when I'm practicing, there are two types of practice. There's a practice where you just practice. There was this place called Forest Road. It is still there, where the Baijis would sing in the evening, and the maestros were there who would teach them, and then tabla maestros were there who would play with them, etc., etc. At night, after all that was over, if you happen to be going by there, you would see that in the compound, where small little hut-like cottages were there, that there will be one tabla player or another sitting with a sheet on his tabla, practicing. It's dark in the middle of the night, practicing. Now he's not hearing what he's practicing. Okay, so he has no way of really concentrating on it. But that practice was more about getting the fingers to be familiar with the combinations and permutations and the language. But what I also found later on in my life was that I was able to best understand the balance between the two hands. For instance, when you're playing on open tablas, there is resonance. Okay? There's resonance. So, certain things about the baya and all that, you can practice that. But when you're practicing on a dead surface, you hear both the hands clearly. So, both hands, you're hearing equally. You follow what I'm saying? That means you now have the possibility of figuring out your balances in the phrases. Whether it's the tirikita, whether it's the kran or ghran, or it's gedanaga or denegene, whatever. So those balances appear when you are. So इतना जल्दी मगरिब भी हो गया? So, Isha ki namaz. So it is to me. I found that both hands, the dead phrases like tere kita, dere dere, kite taka, all those were. It was much easier for me to balance them with the sheet on the tabla. So they were practicing, and you noticed that when they performed, there was a lot of phrases that they played which were dead phrase oriented, like dite dite dage dite dage dite kredite dage dite kredite kredite dage dite kredite kredite dage dage dite kredite, all closed syllables. Closing phrases with one dha or one ge in there, but even kit is in there, so they were dead syllables. So they were practicing at night, balancing those out. It wasn't just sitting and warming your hand, because they had to hear both hands correctly. So you can understand that there's the bayan open sound, then the bayan close sound. So you know the balances have to be correct. Now I can tell what needs to be more. Sometimes on an open tabla you can't have the resonance of the instrument. Just being connected to the instrument does not allow you to actually feel just the attack. When you're playing on a dead instrument, you're feeling the attack. You can hear the attack. So the weight of the attack, how much it should be for both to be able to get that proper balance. So that's one kind of a practice where the matter is not the issue, but the balance of the two hands is an issue. Then there's a kind of a practice where you are actually navigating through the material, where you actually now want to be able to say daginatin dagina dagitrika dinagina. So what am I doing? How prolonged is my tin? Daginatin dagina dagitrika dinagina. For some people play daginatip dagina dagitrika dinagina. Daginatip dagina dagitrika dinagina. Daginatin मेरा धा किधर गया बाद में, थोड़ा इधर उधर हो गया. But you have to, you talk about daginatin dagina dagitrika dinagina daginatin 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 daginatin. So the balance of open syllables, material, and then for combination and permutation. So there's that practice. Then there's the practice of the mind, where you are not sitting in front of the tabla at all. Now all these practices require focus. They require attention, plugged in attention. None of these practice, your thoughts can waver. If you're not concentrating, then you will not see what to fix. If you're not hearing, then you will not hear what the balance should be, and which part of the phrase needs to be highlighted further, which part of the phrase needs to be going back. That has a lot to do with it. Abhi you sit in front of your teacher and you practice teacher. इधर थोड़ा ठीक करो, बराबर नहीं आ रहा है, थोड़ा इधर जोर लगाओ, ठीक है. But unless you hear it yourself, you can't fix it. You know how to screw in a screw, but unless you've done it, you don't know how. You have to do it. You have to learn. You have to hear. So I feel that you can only physically play tabla and do these kinds of dead and open practices up to the point where you can focus. You can't be playing and watching T20 International. No, doesn't work. You have to practice, and if it's 1 hour or 45 minutes and your thoughts are wavering, stop. Collect your thoughts, look around, walk away, get a drink of water or something, come back and do it again. If you can, at the end of the practice, recall all the mistakes you had made and all the fixing jobs that you did, that means you've done the correct practice. If you cannot recall, मैंने 3 घंटा रियाज किया, क्या रियाज किया किसी को पता नहीं, खुद को पता नहीं, उसका कोई फायदा नहीं, no point at all.
Another question they asked.
No, first let's get everybody's view first of all.
I'm just actually.
आपका view भी तो बोलो, what do you think?
No, I think. How do you say
इतना
this?
अच्छा
correct?
shirt पहना
They always say whether we should practice Qaidas or we should practice Relas or whatever. But Qaidas or Relas, there's always a debate between the two. Whether Qaida should be the main focus of practice or whether.
It's a little difficult for me. When I was very young, I wanted to practice Relas because I wanted to play fast. So I felt, okay, Relas is the fast thing, so I want to practice Relas. And you know, my father plays these Relas and everybody claps and this is great, so that's what I want to do. So let's skip everything else and go straight to
Go
that.
straight to it.
You know, that was the thought process. But just like your mind learns to speak the tabla language, just like your brain is figuring it all out and trying to speak it, your fingers have to learn to speak the language as well. That cannot happen with just playing relas. Relas are a pattern, a row with highlights. They are not necessarily things with paltas, variations. You will highlight it, you will reverse it, you will create a little baya element to it, you will do all that. That's Rela. But what teaches you the grammar of the language, what teaches you how to speak it as a language, and so teaches you all the combination and permutations. A for apple, B for bat, C for cat, A for apple, all the apple that I can eat. Okay, so that's apple, and then all the apple I can eat. It's one element of what to do with A for apple. I mean, grammar of putting it all together, combination of permutations, that comes from Qaidas. That's why Qaidas are with paltas, with variations. You're moving it around, you're learning the language and you're speaking it. That can happen only with the Qaidas. So it's Rela. इतना तक है. You can't be creating. I mean, if you are going to play a Rela and make 15 variations of it, then you might as well play Qaida. Then it's not Rela anymore, then it's a Qaida. So, for language, to learn the tabla language, to teach your fingers to speak that language in any combinations and permutations and stuff, it's important that you play Qaidas. But also don't forget that playing Qaidas doesn't mean that your hand or fingers will not be good enough to be able to play Relas. Once they have learned the combinations and permutation, the speed of it can be easily practiced. If you haven't figured out your fingers doing all these other things and being able to work together, you can't play fast anyway. You have to be able to work together. It's very important that you do that. Also understand one thing. Playing fast is also in some ways how should I say, the word I'm looking for is an illusion. It's an illusion. If you play clear and your balances are right and your hands have a clean projection, if you play medium fast, it will sound fast. If the clarity is there. You know, it's like how the medium pace bowlers look very fast if we are playing on a fast pitch. The clarity gives you that speed or strength. If you're playing fast, it doesn't matter. That clarity has to be there. If it's clear, even if you're playing at a 3/4 tempo, it'll sound fast. That's why sometimes if you're playing a qaida, you know, if you play it long enough at that tempo and with clarity, it has a strength and speed that makes you fly. If you play it long enough and at that speed and clarity, you'll feel like you're playing really fast and good and strong. Qaidas have that ability too. You don't have to play at a regular speed, but if you're playing at a clear, clean presentation tempo, it's faster. So keep that in mind. You know,
I think balance it out between that.
balance is very important. Clarity is very important. Your ear being able to recognize that your balance is wrong. At times, I've heard tabla students play, और right hand तो बड़े मजे से जा रहा है, ये बेचारा थोड़ा गरीब है, परेशान है, and balance is bad, but the tabla student who's playing it is not even noticing it. So that is not good. So for me, the practice, whether it's a Rela practice, Qaida practice, dead practice, open practice, should be up to a point where you can focus and concentrate and dissect each and every element of your practice and absorb it and store it for information. If you cannot recall, if you cannot figure out what you did 10 avartis before, then there's some problem. That's it, I think. Good environment is
What was
necessary.
Khan Sahab's view on the practice?
But the practice that he was talking about was what was exactly what I was earlier mentioning, is living it
Living it. Yeah.
through the
Not
day.
actually physical.
It wasn't actually physical practice.
I do want to, going back to something you were talking about before, he always made very clear to us that when he was teaching us,
We are talking about Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab, okay? David G's teacher.
that there was much more going on than we knew about in his teaching. That he was teaching us, on levels that we were not necessarily perceiving. And over a lot of years, and even since he's left, since he's passed away, I've come to see that just more and more stronger. That the teaching is going on, that what he gave was something that came into us in ways that probably didn't understand at the time, and are slowly understanding.
That always is a fact. You notice things about stuff you've learned as it grows on you and magnifies itself. you see nooks and crannies in it that you have probably not noticed before, that can help you to enhance the experience of playing it even more and more. So yes, teachers have the ability to give you information, and all he did was he tried to challenge you to dig deep, take that leap of faith, and maybe see what he's actually intending for you. Okay. I think practice.
From the dance point of view.
Well, if you practice, you'll get to Carnegie Hall.
Practice the old saying.
Once I have to just tell you this story because I like to tell stories. A budgie was said that, go practice in this space. He was staying in LA and Los Angeles, and so he said, go practice. There's a little space you can practice. So I went to practice, put my guru on, and practiced. And so I was practicing Tatkar, and then I did a bunch, and then I was practicing Abhinaya. So he wasn't always hearing me, right? Because he was listening for my guru. So I came up, it took me, I had to take my guru off, came up, back upstairs, where I had gone downstairs. And he said to me, Beta, why did you stop? I said, well, Baji, I have so much to do. I have my lunch, I have my lungat, I have all these things I have to practice. So he said, no, I want you to practice not stopping. I don't want to hear your guru stop for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay? I don't want to hear it stop. If you come to the sum, you go right into the na din din da. You just keep going. I don't want to stop. So he also was trying to say you have to build up stamina. For me as a dancer, that's what I felt. And I took it to heart, and I thought that was actually, I thought, well, he chose that 75 minutes for some reason, for me, whatever. He was a guru for me, right? So I took it to heart. Don't stop. So okay, I didn't stop it.
There is a question of building stamina, I guess, that does have something to do with it. Even though I did not practice non-stop for many hours, what did happen was, see, there's two things. One, I was always, at least in my mind and my thoughts, around the tabla. So I went to school, I came back onto the tabla. Then some friends called, okay, I go outside, sometime with them, came back straight to the tabla again. Go to the beach, play some cricket, come back to the tabla again. So tabla was a focal point. I will always return to my instrument to practice. So in that sense, I was kind of building the stamina of playing longer and practice, playing regular, connecting with my instrument. But also what he did, my father, which was very interesting for me, is that he never really let me get weighed down by the enormous responsibility that this music is.
Wow.
We all like, oh my God, so many thousands of years of history. Oh my God, can I do this justice or not? Or 20 साल रियाज करोगे तब जाके धा सही लगेगा, ना बराबर सुनाई देगी, सा करेक्ट लगेगा, जो भी है. So all these thoughts and processes were not impressed upon me or pushed upon me. I was allowed to practice and play and feel this to be a normal, regular, everyday thing. Routine. It was not, oh God, what am I doing? That's why when I was 7, I could sit with Ali Akbar Khan Sahib and play Teka for him for 20 minutes. Or when I was 11 or 12, I could go to Valkeshwar Teen Batti and sit on the floor while Badi Ghulam Ali Khan Sahib sang and play Teka for him. Or when my mother sent me out at 11 o'clock at night to Jagirdar, the actor, Soman Shivaji Prabhadevi, almost, to play accompanying the senior Dagar brothers. I was not overawed by the situation because, I don't know, I was allowed to feel like that this was fun. I was allowed to feel like that this was no more. It was, and those great masters did not impress. It did not push their will on me either. It was not like, do you know what you are doing? Do you understand what it is all about? No. It was more like, अच्छा बच्चा बजा ठीका लगा. ऐसे. When I was in, when I went with Abbaji to Indore, I was 12 years old. And on the insistence of the organizer, Abbaji allowed me to play a solo for a few minutes. So I played the solo. And in the green room or somewhere, Pandit Omkarnath Thakur ji was sitting.
Wow.
And he heard. So he asked who's playing. बोले Allah Khan Sahab son is playing. अच्छा क्या छोटा है कितने साल का है? बोले 12 साल का है. After the concert was over, I was called by Omkarnath ji. आशीर्वाद दिया, सब कुछ ठीक है. Then he said to the organizer, आज एक आइटम मेरे साथ ये बजाएगा. As a blessing to me, he felt like it was a blessing. It was not at all impressed upon me by him that it was my honor, it was a big thing, and it was. He did not allow that air to appear in any way. None of the masters intentionally will push that on you because they realize that as a student, it's too much of a responsibility to bear. That it's too heavy a load to carry. So I grew up in a very normal, everyday routine. Agar you go play cricket, you come back, you want a glass of water. For me, it was like that. I played in cricket, came back and sat down and played my tabla. It wasn't like, अरे बाहर से आया, हाथ धो, पैर धो, थोड़ा सा साफ सफाई करो, अच्छे कपड़े पहनो, फिर बैठ के बजाओ, मतलब create a, अगरबत्ती जलाओ, whatever. I mean, that was not the case. It was never to, it was just normal. So I really felt that I was lucky in that way, and I kept doing it as a daily routine. So when I was sitting in a classroom, I was going like this. When I was sitting in a bus going somewhere, I was going like this. When I was lying down, I was going like this. When I was sitting, and there was a sofa in our home, old style sofas, so I'd just be like on the arms. So it was constant. So the stamina was already building to be able to play that way. And then when I became 11 years old or so, luckily I was sent away to Bibi Bai's house, where a Kathak dance class would go on in the evening. So 4 बजे से लेके रात के 8:30-9 बजे तक. Heaven for me, no problem. I think I built my strength and stamina doing that for like 2 years or so, practicing 4 hours, 5-6 dancers with bells on their feet dancing.
Right.
And so to be able to keep up with that, and then playing hard and tadkar and whatnot, and Sitara Ji's class and going there and doing that, it just built my strength and stamina. And what was interesting was because I was playing with live musicians, the focus was there. Total focus. It wasn't like I was lost somewhere. Focus was there.
Yeah.
And when I practiced with Abbaji, it was never like, chalo ye kaida bajate ho, usko bajao. It was more like a performance. Lehra player Nasir Bhai or Prakash ji would sit, and then they would play Lehra, and Abbaji would, and I would be there, and then we'd be playing like as if we were playing in a concert. It was not just like that. When he talked to me about tabla, when he wanted to teach me about something, tabla was not there. वो सम है, वहाँ कैसे पहुँचोगे जरा दिखाओ तो. ये होता था. त्रिकृतिकता घेन तदा अब इसकी तिहाई बनाओ जरा, सम पे लाओ. These were the discussions. Not अच्छा अभी तबले पे हाथ रखो, ये करो, वो सब. That was Vinayak Ingle's job or Kharkar's job or somebody's job to make sure that I was doing all that stuff. That was not. God bless them. But anyway, so practice never more than those. The maximum was those 3 hours or so in that Kathak class. That was a maximum that I did. But apart from that, 15 minutes go out, 20 minutes go out, half an hour go out. That's what was going on, and always normal. Don't think. अगर आप लोग सोचोगे यार ये बड़ी पुरानी चीज़ है और ये अब्बा जी ने ऐसा बताया था, तो ये कभी मैं इसको क्या करूँ, कैसे करूँ, मेरे हाथ से नहीं निकल रही है. आप अपने हाथ से उसको वैसे निकालो जैसे निकल रही है. I did that. I used to try and copy Abba ji, and like I mentioned, Rela. So when he used to play, and I would try to do that. I didn't have those hands. मेरे हाथ वैसे नहीं है. I don't have those hands. I won't sound like him no matter what I try. It won't happen. So there's no point in even attempting to do that. But you know, I हाथ फेंकना बोलते हैं ना, क्या हाथ फेंक बोलना, कभी ना कभी को पकड़ेगा, मच्छी पकड़ रहे हैं. हाथ फेंको. Somewhere along the line, I did something, and I said, "Oh, okay," but looking at his hand, it wasn't what he was doing. It was what I was doing, which kind of sounded somewhat like what his phrase sounded like. But it didn't sound as good as his. It didn't sound as full as his. It didn't sound as fat and chubby and strong as his. But it was that phrase, and I could play it. But eventually, I had to give in and play it my way. So never think that I must play it exactly like Zakir bhai or exactly like Fazal bhai or exactly like Yogesh bhai or anybody. No. Or it's exactly the way Abbaji has showed it. Eventually you will have to find your way around. And the reason why I say that is because if there may be 5,000 tabla players that you will see in 5,000 days, and each one of them will be different than the other. It will be difficult to find 2 tabla players who look exactly the same, play exactly the same, have the hands exactly the same, and even sound exactly the same. It's not possible. It's an impossibility. I gave up by the time I was 15 trying to be a carbon copy. It just wasn't possible. You realize it. And it wasn't even his intention that I be that way. His intention was that we take what he has taught us and make it our own. And that's what you need to do. Don't try to be... What did he say once when we were playing a concert and came down and the man said to him, "Khan sahab, aap kamal bajaye aaj aur aapka ladka, he sounds exactly like you." And he said, my father said, "I hope he doesn't. I hope he sounds better than me. I hope he does something more incredible than me." And then he said, and it's because me, meaning himself, that's already done. वो हो गया. मैं जो हूँ वो तो हो ही रहा है, वो तो हो गया है. इसको मुझे कॉपी करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, लेकिन जो इसको दिया है उसको लेके कुछ और आगे बढ़े तो कुछ बात है. This was his idea. And I'm sure every teacher, every guru wants the same from his students. That they would take the information and do something more unique with it. It always needs to go that way or that way. It needs to turn the corner. And if you can make it happen, that's great. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab made Thumri turn the corner and become something incredible. Amir Khan Sahab did that to Khayal Gaiki. Vilayat Khan Sahab did that to the sitar. Ali Akbar Khan Sahab did that to the sarod. He just brought a whole new freshness to it, a whole new idea to make it, take it further. Remember that Abbaji does not sound like Miyaji. They don't sound the same. They're different. So it was obvious that he was not trying to play exactly like him. He was trying to play the information that had been given to him by him and make it his own. That's important. Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab does not sound anything like his father. He doesn't. But that's not his shortcoming. That's his unique quality. Who wants it? Inayat Khan Sahab, the father of Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab. Vilayat Khan Sahab sounded totally different than his father. Not the same. फिर सवाल अरे घर भी जाने दो
practice या hard practice?
Is that the सवाल?
ये मेरा मैं इन लोगों की तरफ से सवाल करूँगा because that's what they keep asking me. So I am actually putting it on you to answer.
Soft practice or hard practice?
Yes.
Yes.
Both. Eventually you will, when you start playing a concert or performances, you will find a medium level of volume that you will play at. Why? Because you can go dynamically in both directions. You can play harder, stronger, or you can play softer and subtle. So you have to have the range to be able to do that. If you play the softest you can possibly play, then you cannot go any softer. So that subtlety is gone.
ये पीछे से शुरू करो। नहीं पीछे से शुरू करो और आ गया।
If you play the hardest you can possibly play, you cannot go any further up. It's simple logic. You must play at a level where you have the range available to experience the highs and the lows, the loud and the soft, the aggressive and the passive, you know, the hard and the soft. You must be able to do all that. So therefore, each one of your finger must have the strength of the full hand behind it. Full hand behind it. So it should be able to, let's see, it should be able to one finger should have the strength to do each finger should have the same sort of strength projection from your hand. Now when you do that,
Everyone's checking.
you are able to then having the full hand behind it, be able to control the dynamics of it. In the concert, you must always find an easy volume to play. Now that easy volume will depend on who you're playing with. For instance, if you're playing with Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma ji, that is a different volume. When you're playing with Birju Maharaj ji, it's a different volume. Okay, when you're playing with singer, it's a different volume. When you're playing with flute, it's a different volume. Sitar, it's a different volume. And it's interesting when that happens, to learn to be able to have each volume control decibel level already imprinted in your hand, so you can do that. So I don't know how you will accomplish that, but I imagine the logic also says that okay, if I play the hardest that I can play, then I would give myself enough strength in my hands and stamina and everything. So in the concert, then I can quiet it down. So that's one way of looking at it. If I play medium volume, then I can play evenly and go softer and subtle and everything. But will I have the strength to be able to play hard? So that's another question that one faces. Okay? I was lucky in my practice, in my practicing period or my learning curve period, that I got to play sitting alone, I got to play on benches, I got to play on pots and pans, I got to play on wood, I got to play on tablas which were dead, which were good, which were bad, whatever. And I also got to play in a concert-like situation with my teacher. I also got to then practice with the dancers.
पीछे से शुरू करो
पीछे से
पीछे से शुरू करके बाद में ये बताइए Give it to everyone
उसका
from
कुछ
behind.
खास रीजन है? क्या रीजन है?
रीजन ये है कि आगे आना जाना बंद होगा
नहीं, कुछ और रीजन। आप आगे चले ही आ रहे हो, वहीं से जोर से बोल देते।
नहीं, he is saying that हम लोग पहले ले लें।
क्या खत्म हो गया?
तो सबसे अच्छा वो हमारे पास आ रहा है।
ले खा। Eat. No.
Amrut
No.
is asking something.
What?
He wanted to ask, but then I.
No, but I just want to. What is the conclusion of this? Hard, soft practice. How do you develop?
No, that was very good.
नहीं तो
To find a medium level from where you can
Finding that medium level.
No, if you find a medium level, how do you develop the strength to play hard?
I think practicing with somebody is an important factor.
how to develop the strength.
Practicing hard is something, practice hard. But then, how do you decide that this is hard? I think
It wasn't like he was playing very hard and strong. Every now and then he would hit a tete and go back, boom, wo tha. Lekin whenever he played normally, it was like, okay, if we are sitting in here, we can hear it, and it was fine. The thing is, nowadays, that kind of playing is fabulous. Simply because you've got the microphone. Okay, so now when you've got the microphone, how hard you should play is not the considered maximum level. What I'm trying to say is, you can set your hard level. You can set your hard level. अब मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ ऐसे, I'm speaking with you like that. I could also speak with you like this. Okay? So this, my hard level, is not as hard as my hard level.
Well, we can hear you better.
You understand what I'm saying? Okay.
No, that really is hard to hear most of the people talking.
Jara, you have to move this. So the hard
Have a haircut.
So the hard level is a relative term. It is definitely a relative term. For some people it's something else, for some people, I remember Budai Maharaj ji, Pandit Shamta Prasad ji, had nice big strong hands.
He was a Pahalwan as well.
Huh?
He was a Pahalwan.
He was Pahalwan as well. Kasrat वगैरह.
Natural force was so much.
But even he would have the microphone turned up. As much as he can get it turned up, he would have it turned up.
But that was why when he reached like 60s.
No,
70
even
or
in his
something.
50s, it was like that.
But I remember Zakir bhai telling me when we heard the last tabla solo without microphone at Mali, Ustad Nizamuddin Khasa that was in the Chauraha where about 100 people were sitting in the open, and Zakir bhai noticed that it was Ustad Nizamuddin Khasa, so he crept up and sat right behind in the last row. This was at Mali, and surface noise and traffic noise and everything going on. Zakir bhai said he could hear everything very clearly.
Yeah, I could. My ears were better too in those days. No, but I could hear everything clearly. मतलब बोलते हैं कि न रहा, मतलब जो होता है वो उनका था. But
So the best solution is to have a good sound system and a good sound man.
yes, but even then you still need to have an understanding of what is the loudest you will play, and what is the medium level you will play, and what is the soft level you will play. So the fact is, when the sound system is on, you don't really need to stress yourself to be playing hard. You just have to have a decent level that comes through, and that becomes your top level, and then your medium and soft level are in proportion to that. So that happens this day, in these days and age. So that's what you do. There's no reason to worry about that you'll end up in some situation where there'll be 400 people in a hall and you will have no microphone. It won't happen. Doesn't happen anymore. So you don't have to think about that, but what you do have to think about is the balance of the two hand, clarity of the phrase, that is very clean and it's not cluttered. And for that you have to have your ears tuned up enough to be able to understand, identify any mistakes or volume adjustments between the two hands, and you accomplish that. That's very important. So you do that. Okay?
इनका सवाल रह गया.
क्या सवाल?
However, we are trying to push ourselves to, reach to a level. I don't know what, but so one is until what time we should push ourselves, and second is what is good.
What
So
is?
what is good? What does it mean by it's good? So is it when I am happy, what I'm playing is good, or what is real?
Well,
Or what is enough?
as far as the first part of the question, till what time we should push ourselves? Forever. That's the answer. We must keep pushing ourselves. That doesn't stop. That should not stop. That's why we practice every day. When we are practicing, we are pushing ourselves. That's logical. So that happens. When what is good? Now, first of all, good is a 4-letter word. So that's something that we must first understand. Good,
Another
good again is a relative term. The reason why you hold Appaji in such high esteem, he's the sky, he's the heaven, he's the planet. So for you that's good. Does that mean everything else is bad? No, it's not bad. It's only different. So that's also good, but for someone else. So good is I mean, it is something that is, I would say, it's not, it's relative, and it's a personal personal orgasm. Good. So what I feel is that when I'm performing, I have to be satisfied in order to be able to have that kind of vanity inside of me, the ego inside of me, to say, hey, I can do this, and get on stage and say, look at me, Does that mean that I'm vain, I have an ego? Or does it just mean that I'm good enough to be there? I mean, there are all these questions that spring up in that situation. So what is good is a very relative term. if you get on stage and you strut your stuff and you say, oh, look at this guy, he's like trying to be Zakir or something, you know, but in the meantime, you're not trying to be me, hopefully. You're just trying to be presenting whatever you have in the best way you can. I'm hoping that when I play, that I can get off the stage and think about it and say, I did exactly what I wanted to do. That I did the best I could for today, and it's the best for today, it's good for today, but tomorrow it's going to have to be better. So that how long we should push ourselves, it's all tied in together. Understand? So push yourself forever. Good is only at the moment. So it's a passing fancy. Good is a passing fancy. It just needs to be better the very next day, or the very next moment. You are accompanying somebody and you've played a beautiful phrase combo in a pattern in response to somebody's playing, and everybody went wow, wow, wow. Kya baat hai? Kya response and call and response were. Very good. Next day you do the same thing, it doesn't mean anything. It has no impact altogether. So there it is. Huh? क्या allowed है? It is really okay to fall flat on your face. Abhi, lately I've even stopped thinking what I'm going to do when I go on stage. I just simply have. I want to be able to take that leap of faith, get on the stage and see what happens. I just stopped. Because if it means that one day it's going to be really bad, that's okay. It means there's room for improvement.
Always.
Always. So for me, I can only get better if I have the bad to judge the ability with. It's important. So good is a relative term, and bad is really a good thing to have around. So human condition. Okay? Question. Another question? आपको भी ये सूचना
एक तो आप पकड़ में आते नहीं हैं इसलिए तो अब सवाल तो भी आएंगे ही सबके जहन में.
You just said that you reached the stage you stop thinking of what you were doing on stage, which we can understand.
No, first of all, I don't know if I've reached that stage, but I'm trying to
So,
not think.
but
That doesn't mean I don't think. That doesn't mean that I don't think.
but something must have given you the confidence to take that plunge. And so, at what stage does one decide to increase that risk factor
Well, the thing is, first of all, realizing I'm not trying to be a master. I'm not trying to be a guru. I'm at peace with where I am. I'm confident in my ability as it is. And so for me, if I fail, it's okay. That fear of failing and thinking that that would have consequences is not there. The consequences are only that something better can come out of it. So for me, failing is actually a necessity. It's important. And so I'm at a point where it doesn't matter to me. Or, it's not that's exact that's it. That's just a simple thing. And on that note,
We should wrap it up.
Actually, I was going to say, for us, it's also very easy to not think about what you're going to do when you're out.
absolutely. John McLaughlin released a DVD of learning to play and all that stuff, and in the back he has written, learn every phrase that has ever been played, learn every chord that has ever been created, all harmonies, all songs, everything, and then go on stage and forget about it.
I don't mean us. I mean, it's easy for us to not think about what you're going to do when you're out. You, not us. We think about what we're going to do when we go out.
Yeah. No, but it's amazing. I mean, it's like Pandit Kishan Maharaj going on stage and saying, let's see what the tabla wants to say today. So even he is not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thinking process. Some of us, prepare and plan what we are going to do, and it is a great. What is the greatness of an artist? I mean, look at someone. You go to a concert of Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, and you can never be sure of what's going to come at you. It was not necessarily consistently. It may be 10 concerts and maybe there were 6 that were fabulous and 4 were not. But it wasn't a reflection, it wasn't like saying, oh, he's not that great a musician, he played a bad concert. It was mainly because he wasn't afraid to fail in his quest to find a different way of telling the same story. Everything has been said, everything has been played, everything has been laid out already. I'm just going to try to find a different way of saying the same old thing. And if I can't, that's okay, but attempt has to be made. You have to try to reach for the stars. And if you fall, that's, next day you can try it again. If you fail, that's a big try again. What was that?
Is it first don't succeed, try.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
So in conclusion,
Tonal quality, balance, a good ear
Listen to yourself.
to recognize and analyze, and basically you become a sound engineer as well, so that you can balance your own sound as well. Set up your own hard volume, which has nothing to do with the hardest you can hit the tabla, just a hard volume, and so that you can have your medium and soft volume accordingly. Blah, blah, blah. Kairos is your grammar, it's the language, the A, B, C, D that you must learn, combinations and permutations of. Your fingers must learn to speak that which you are thinking, the language. If your fingers can speak the language, that's pretty good to start. And it'll be really nice if we could leave. I failed to introduce Shabda Khan Sahab. There's Alia and there's Zulekha. You know my better half. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for keeping his memory alive and his knowledge available to share. Keep doing that, and we'll see you on the 3rd. Yeah? Okay, everybody. The tabla maestro.
photograph these two?
His photograph is here.
Oh, just.
I brought it. So we put in the bag.
So I'll tell one of the students who's going to get this, get that also.
Get that also.
ठीक है?
So they will have to go.
संकेत कहाँ गए? वही लेके आते ना गाड़ी में?
And keeping in mind the connection of Gyan Babu or Nikhil Ghosh ji and these guys, I wanted to have Bikram Ghosh play, but he can't do it because of the 13th day of Shankar Das, passing cremation falls on the 3rd, so he wasn't going to be able to make it. So Anish Pradhan will play. So there will be some connection, and maybe we'll all acknowledge Shankar Das' contribution before the second session, which is the Tal, session begins. So that's important to know.
And Shujat Khan Sahib will play.
Yeah, Shujat
Khan Sahib.
Huh?
What is the lineup?
That is just said.
Just look in the newspaper.
The line is just before the concert you see outside.
The line is a continuation of a point. So you know that Sadhguruji has sent a bunch of his students who are going to perform Drupad and compositions of Sadhguruji. That will happen.
The morning man.
Punjabi. And then there will be Shujat Khan, sitar, then there will be Aarti Amklikar, vocal. So it's a full morning. Then of course Anish Pradhan, and then Mannar Gudi, the great Tamil player. And then Sukhwinder Singh will play Jodi Baj, which is the Punjab Jodi Baj. He will play that, which is very, the old traditional form that you will hear. And then of course the evening we have this great drummer, Vinny Kayuda. Yeah, exactly. And Vinny Kayuda.
Doctor Who.
He's the drummer who plays with Herbie Hancock, with Chick Corea, with Sting.
Started with Frank Zappa.